Hello and welcome to another open day talk with the College of Functional Wellness. My name is Laura and I'm with the gorgeous Siwan from the College of Auricular Acupuncture, and we've known each other for quite a few years. And why I'm so excited about this talk is that your understanding of energy, healing energy therapy is second to none, and I want to learn from it and I want to talk about it, how you work in your college, what you teach, and also how I work as well. So Siwan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you very much indeed for that absolutely fabulously warm welcome. I was just saying that you can tell that we're live because there's all sorts of things going on in the background, but really lovely to be here. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, my background is quite eclectic and quite mixed, starting off really with energy healing. So I suppose in a way that's talking about the most ancient of healing arts, the laying on of hands. And I think, you know, they even have bits of papyrus in Egypt where they show you the laying on of hands as first medicines. So that's really how I first got into, I suppose, healing. And I just thought it was something that was very natural, that everybody did, that everybody had this ability, which of course we do. And it was through that curiosity and exploration that I say that I would say that shiatsu found me rather than me finding shiatsu. But shiatsu was where I first started, and it gave me an incredible way to be able to apply this healing energy, but with if you like, an academic structure or some kind of skeleton to work from, because it works on a very emotional, spiritual, physical aspect. And so it had all the elements that I, you know, was very attracted to and very curious about. And it gave some kind of definition and substance, if you like, to this feeling that I felt that I had in my hands and that I'd been using for so many years. And that then progressed into wanting to go deeper into understanding the workings of the body, so going into the anatomy and physiology, eventually going into acupuncture to understand more deeply about traditional Chinese medicine. And again, what's so extraordinary is having started at a very, I use the word advisedly, but a very simple beginning of laying on of hands, and having gone through this whole kind of academic body of work of getting my degree in Chinese medicine and becoming a licensed acupuncturist and a shiatsu teacher, and you know, so I teach all this Oriental medicine, but funnily enough, it's just brought me all the way back to the beginning again, so back to simplicity. And so now the way that I work is just stripping all that back. You know, obviously we have that knowledge encoded in us in some way, shape or form. However, the beauty of doing all of that study was for my own, I guess, my own confidence and depth of knowledge, but it's brought me back down to the simplicity of the body and working with the individual body, because we all interact so differently in our world, depending on what our life experiences have been.
I completely agree. It's interesting because I've been in clinical practice for just over a decade now, and my work has become more simple. I kind of went down this massive rabbit hole of wanting to understand the intricate details of how the immune system works, and then sort of coming back out the other side and seeing the whole picture and the whole person. Absolutely. So
I think it's necessary though, isn't it? It's really necessary to have that depth of knowledge so that you have that as your substance and foundation. But ultimately we are working with individuals, and we are working with individual energy, and we're working with, you know, we're not a one size fits all. You know, you might have 10 people with a digestive condition, and that's the other thing. There are lots of labels, aren't there? SIBO and this and that and the other, and there are all these kind of, you know, labels that are given to certain things. But actually, it's just stripping it back to that individual. What are the signs and symptoms? What is that? What that individual's experience of their situation? And then using our knowledge and our intuition and the energetics of that and everything that we've learned, of course, in the background that applies to that individual situation.
I really like that, and I think that's a very clear distinction between how we work compared to more of a traditional medical approach, is that yes, we look at symptoms and that is displaying something that's going on, but we work with the person.
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
work with the symptoms, and so we do not offer diagnosis, or that is not our field. We are working with the person.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's interesting. In Chinese medicine, for example, it's all about patterns and being able to determine patterns. So, for example, you might have, again, 10 people coming in with a headache, but that headache is going to manifest in different ways for each of those individuals. And so the beauty of Chinese medicine, if you like, is, seeing or it's like having a watercolor, a unique watercolor of that particular individual, where all the signs and symptoms start to make up this beautiful picture of what's happening with you. And then that's where we can, create our interventions and come in and support and treat. And the most important aspect actually is that sense of empowerment, isn't it? Because we're all capable of healing ourselves and healing our bodies. We need the support, the intervention sometimes to get back into that sense of our own healing ability.
When you talk about energy therapy, energy medicine, what do you mean? And you talk about Chinese medicine, can you tell us a little bit more? If someone's interested in being a practitioner, either going down the acupuncture route or maybe coming down the kinesiology route with our college, what do we mean by energy therapy?
Well, that's interesting. I think it can be interpreted in so many ways, can't it? But energy, energy is in everything. It's like a harmonic resonance. That's how I like to think of it, that we are all made up of a particular pattern of harmonic resonance within a resonant environment. And so it's like an information superhighway. And in shiatsu and acupuncture, for example, we have meridians, which are pathways around the body. Each organ in the body has an information highway, let's say, a meridian system that covers certain organs, certain orifices, certain body fluids, etc. So, so getting back to your question of what is energy, before I kind of digress.
It's the universe.
Yes, it is, because everything in the universe is, in the Chinese point of view anyway, everything in the universe is reflected within our body. And so, so the way that, Chinese medicine came about, it's very scientific actually, but it's also very poetic as a result, because it shows, that everything in our universe is, we are made up of trillions of cells and we're vibrating with this, I guess, vital life force energy. So I would say that the energy is this vital life force energy that we have within us, and that exists in our environment around us.
So do you work with the 5-element model, which is something that we do as kinesiologists? From the foundation training, we look at, it's so interesting. It's one of the rabbit holes I went down because I was just so blown away with 5-element. Is that something that you work with?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, within the auricular acupuncture course that we offer, the 5 elements is the basis. And actually, 5 elements is part of traditional Chinese medicine. But often you'll see in acupuncture that there are different styles. And so traditional Chinese medicine is seen as one style, and 5-element acupuncture is seen as a different style. However, having said that, 5 elements is part and parcel of Chinese medicine, as is acupuncture, herbs, tuina, cupping, moxa, movement with Tai Chi and Qigong. See, all of those Tai Chi and Qigong also works with energy.
Works with 5-element with the meridians, yeah?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So the 5 elements in a way is a further refinement of yin and yang Chinese philosophy. So it's, as you'll know, because you teach it, But the 5 elements give us a really good indication of how our whole organ system works together. So how our heart relates to our kidneys, how our kidneys relate to our digestive system, how our digestive system relates to our liver, how our liver relates to our heart. It's all interconnected, and the 5 elements gives us a really beautiful model, if you like, to place over. You can use that model over absolutely anything, actually, even interpersonal relationships, so that you can understand, if somebody is more woody in personality or more watery in personality, or if somebody's really fiery, how to approach them, so you're not getting somebody who's really kind of liver cheese stagnated, angry and irritable. You're not meeting fire with fire or wood with wood. You learn through that 5 element model how to be able to approach, tricky situations in a very positive way.
It's one of the things that I loved learning is, so the 5 element model, we've got fire, earth, metal, water and wood.
Yes.
And the organ meridians fit within each of those, and they all have this interplay, don't they? And what I loved learning about it, so I loved seeing how organs, like you describe it so beautifully, how the organs all partner together and how they all support each other, but how they can also be quite destructive with each other.
Absolutely.
And it's this understanding of that colors play a role, that seasons play a role, that emotions, all of this play a role in, and you can map it on this 5 element to be able to, and this is where also disease can be mapped onto the 5 element.
Absolutely.
Where there is stuck emotion, or where there is potentially symptoms coming up in the body, that you can map it onto the 5 element, and it will give you a direction as a practitioner of, okay, this is where I need to work. So my understanding of Chinese medicine is that it's always looking for balance, that these elements within the 5 element, when there is disease or emotional trauma or emotional upset, that they go out of balance. And our job is to identify, okay, how do we bring this back into this communication? Is that how you work?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because people always say, well, what element am I? Well, in fact, we're all the elements. It's an integrated whole. But just as you so beautifully described, when there's something out of sync, it shows in one of the 1, 2, or 3 of those elements, as imbalances. So you'll start to see the signs and symptoms that are associated with it. So yes, everything is very much interconnected. And I think from a student's point of view, actually, it helps a student to know how to question further, to get deeper into an individual's imbalance and see, where that causative factor is. And the other side of 5 elements that's so beautiful as well is that it gives us a way of for us acupuncturists of diagnosing the imbalance, because it's starting to create a pattern. So it's all, the 5 elements in Chinese medicine is all about patterns and being able to interpret the core or causative factor that has created the imbalance in the first place. And once you're able to find what the cause factor is, it then unravels through all the different mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. Because again, part of that energy healing, if you like, is, I'll always ask myself, what level am I working on with this person? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it, where is the stuckness? Where is the deficiency of qi? Where's that stagnation? Where's that holding pattern? Because once we can identify that, we can start to unravel the complications that have been built up as a result of it.
In kinesiology, what we do is we identify where there may be a stagnation or let's say an under energy within a meridian, within an organ meridian, and then where is the over energy, where is there too much energy, where's that stuck, and where is it stealing from the under energy. And then the way that we would work is we're putting energy through massage techniques, through energetic through nutrition. Those are our toolkits. How do we put energy into the meridian that is struggling, and how do we relax? How do we like sedate the energy that is too high? Is it that the same in how you
Well,
work?
actually, that's very shiatsu based as
Is
well,
it?
because when, you know, in working with shiatsu, you're looking for the most excess and the most deficient in order to create that harmony again. So, you know, people might have heard of yin and yang. You know, they might know the yin yang symbol, but it's all about creating that balance. It's the checks and balances of the body always trying to come back to homeostasis. So anything that, you know, like a fever, if you think about a fever is an excess, but it creates can create a very deficient condition. So it's about, you know, balancing the two to bring back a sense of homeostasis within the body.
And so how would you do that? So say you had someone who was coming into your clinic and they had a high energy in the stomach and a low energy in the intestines, for example. How would you work with that? Is that something that you would work with?
Yes, we do. I mean, you know, part of the energetics, if you like, is, you know, working with the meridian system, working with the five element associations, working with food energetics. And so for us, rather than, you know, what we would look at is the signs and symptoms to see whether it was a deficient or excess condition in the first place, looking at the causative factor, because the causative factor is really important. Is that causative factor coming from an excess or deficiency? Because something might manifest as an excess, but actually it's not, it's a deficient condition. So, so it's really important for us, you know, when we're working, is to be able to identify where that causative factor and also working with what we have right here, right now, as well as working with the cause of the condition in the first place. So, for example, I was just thinking of the last 4 clients that have come in, just to show you the breadth of the different kinds of conditions that we work with. So one was a young woman of 15, who was self-harming, feeling really upset with the world. Her mother had brought her in because she overdosed. And so, you know, how you could say, well, how do you work with that? Isn't that a counseling job? You know, well, of course, she is having counseling, but, you know, how could the acupuncture help? Well, her mother said that, you know, after her acupuncture treatment, she started to make eye contact again. She felt more relaxed in her body. She felt as though you know, that's one of the beautiful things for me, is that self-empowerment, that bringing people back to a sense of who they are and where their place is in this world. And so for this young 15-year-old, where life, you know, had obviously been feeling really quite traumatic, the acupuncture helped her to come back into a sense of herself and who she was, and, you know, began to help her have a different kind of relationship with the world around her. 2 of my clients at the moment, different age groups, you know, one in her early 30s and one in her mid 40s, coming for fertility treatment. So again, you know, both very, very different scenarios. In fact, actually, my younger one has just got pregnant. She's 36-year-old, the 45-year-old. So she was, you know, she'd been trying for a baby for 3 years with no success. After 3 months of treatment, she's now pregnant. The older one is a little bit trickier. She's 45. She's already gone through, you know, 3 failed IVF cycles. Is stick thin, not a great diet, high flyer banker, lots of stress in her life. You know, so there are lots of different conditions that we work with, but it's focusing in on the signs and symptoms that they present with, and then looking at that causative factor.
So with those clients that came in, how were you able to determine what to focus on, and just out of pure curiosity, what came up? What did you treat?
Well, with fertility, it's quite interesting because I have a passion for food energetics, and food is our first medicine. So for me, I've created how would I call it? I guess diet for your cycle, for your menstrual cycle. So again, it's that dynamic of yin yang. It's how we go through the 5 elements within the menstrual cycle, and there are different things happening in the body in those different phases. And so nutrition plays a very great part in what they need to be doing at each stage to support their body to be functioning at an optimal level. So a lot of it, what they get to do at home, every moment of every day with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they are taking their medicine. And then I support them with auricular acupuncture or full body acupuncture to be able to balance the patterns that we see that are out of whack. And generally with fertility, I also use a basal body temperature chart because that helps us to really zone in to see where the imbalances are at which stage of the cycle. So we can be with Chinese medicine, we can be very, very precise, which is the beauty of it.
I love it. I didn't realize that you work so holistically, because that's how we work as kinesiologists. That's how we teach our kinesiologists to be, is that we work with the bees. So we look at it biochemically. You're absolutely the medicine that we put into our mouths. And if I had a fertility client come in, and I've recently had a similar story of a woman who had unexplained infertility and sort of saw me twice, and we put some tweaked the diet because it was pretty good anyway, put in some of the key nutrients. So I think it was some zinc, some magnesium, some B vitamins, some omega oils. We dealt a little bit with the emotional aspect of infertility, because that can play a massive role.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a cause of disease in Chinese medicine. When an emotion, if you can't overcome an emotion in a healthy way, that becomes a cause for disease.
Yeah, and we absolutely look at that from a 5 element perspective. Again, one of my favorite things about 5 element is that I was able to, okay, so you've got constipation, and that sits in the metal element, which is to do with grief and regret and letting go. And then that opens up a conversation with my clients about, have you had any difficulty with grief or regret? And it just opens these doors of being able to explore, okay, this is the emotional area that we need to be focusing on. But with the fertility, we would do some structural, some getting the pelvis in the right position, getting the muscles around the pelvis, everything in the right place. Emotionally, how is she feeling? Nutritionally in the right place. Diet is great. And then we would work again with the 5 elements. So it's really interesting to hear how you're working with something like fertility in a similar way. It's looking at the lifestyle as well as looking at the diet, as well as the energetic. What happened with the 15-year-old? What direction? How were you able to determine what she needed?
Well, I mean, that's a really interesting one, actually, because there's a lot of self-harm in there. There's a lot of it's quite a little kind of thorny ball of I don't know what yet. However, I think the first thing, the first aspect for me is that she wanted to come. So that was great. And then we are working very much within what, because she has all sorts of ADHD and, other different, things that are going on for her. However, bringing balance to the emotional aspect and, just finding what her touchstone is, for herself and what her touchstone is for life. She's an incredibly creative young woman. And so she does these amazing, intricate models of things. And so it was helping her to find her way, to find, where her creative energy, it's like, liver energy is very potent and it's very creative and it needs a direction. It's always all about that, vision and that forward planning and that, bringing things into being. And so within her particular picture, there was this huge potent energy that was imploding. So we needed to have, you know, a way of being able to channel this incredibly potent energy into something that she could birth into creativity. And with that expression, you know, she's starting to feel her way through the depths of despair that she felt that she was going through. So it's very much led by her in many ways.
I love it. And this is why the careers that we have and choosing this as a career pathway is just so creative, because, and why I love that we're doing this, because I thought as an acupuncturist, you'd be identifying the imbalances and putting some needles in and then off you go. Whereas
yes, not
like
at all.
my understanding of the liver, which sits in the wood element, and the wood element is springtime, isn't it? It's so key in teenage, because it's the beginning
Absolutely,
of stepping into your adulthood. And you're right, that the way that you describe that energy, like liver energy, is this, it's going into the world, it's a powerful energy. And we see this a lot with like autoimmune, for example, can be a self-attack. That's an emotional connection that can be associated with autoimmune. So it's where this powerful energy, this anger, this rage about, or this passion, because that's what anger is, it can be so passionate.
Absolutely.
It has no direction, and then it just gets turned inwards. And this self-attack that happens, and being able to, as a practitioner, identify and find a client's passion and be able to reroute that energy. I love it. I love it. I've not heard energy medicine described in that way. I love it.
Well, it's interesting, you know, there's a real symbiotic relationship between auricular acupuncture and kinesiology. We've had quite a lot of kinesiologists come to do our auricular acupuncture course. And what's really beautiful is because they already have an understanding of the 5 elements, you know, there's so much work that you can do. I mean, the beauty of the work that we do is that it's not just a sausage factory where people come in, they have their treatment and off you go. I'm really enjoying it. Did you ever see that program, Dr. House?
Yes. Oh yes, I love it. Everything was lupus. Yes.
So these wonderful kind of complex cases and having to kind of really get in there and understand what's happening with this.
There's always something in their foot, wasn't it? Always something they trodden on.
I mean, it's just so fascinating, our body ecology. It's, you know, it's really, we can learn so much about each other. Just the way that our muscles wrap themselves around our bones tells our life story. You know, it's just such a, you know, talking about the auricular acupuncture, it's probably most well known for addiction, I think, in this country, sadly. You know, addiction, weight loss, smoking cessation. But in fact, it can do so much more than that. And I think probably because it's so close to the brain and it's that, you know, chemical message, if you like, that electric message that goes directly to the brain and then to the targeted area of the body. It has, there's something magical about it. It almost feels like, you know, the needles are antennae connecting people from the etheric, if you like, the more spiritual, the more etheric, into the more dense reality of us living in this physical world. And I think the more we can get individuals to recognize their power, to recognize how influential we all are as individuals, how much power we have. I feel that a lot of the, I don't know, I was going to say poison, but a lot of the malaise, a lot of the situation, you know, a lot of the situations that I see in my clinic are really getting people back to a sense of their own empowerment, which means not only a sense of empowerment in their health is only a reflection of what's going on mentally and emotionally in their lives, which is manifesting in, you know, physical conditions, which can be, you know, mild or life-threateningly serious.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you should say that, because this is a conversation that's come up in the other open day talks, is this, like, our role is helping people find their own self-empowerment. And it's not how we're taught in our culture. It's when illness comes up, we go to an expert who takes the pain away. And what our role in our industry is being able to understand the learning of what our bodies are trying to communicate with us, and that we have the control, we have the power to be able to take our health back. That, like you said, like the medicine that we
reclaim our
mouth,
lives
every single day, the choices that we make either lead us into a place of health or unwellness. So
absolutely.
And I love that we are at the forefront of trying to bring this message that we can take control of our health before it gets to that stage where we've got bits falling off of us. You know, it's that preventative stuff. I love doing the preventative stuff. I love going for a massage. I love going for acupuncture. I love going to see my coach. I just, you know,
have you ever actually had any of the auricular acupuncture?
Have I? I've been to an acupuncturist who did put one in my ear, but I don't think that's auricular. But I would love to. I've recently discovered one of the original textbooks in kinesiology. It's like the birth Bible of kinesiology. And what I was so joyous to see is that there's a whole section on the auricular points. So there is this, this is absolute, when you look at the birthplace of kinesiology, where the guy who developed it, Dr. George Goodhart, he loved Chinese medicine, and he brought Chinese medicine and chiropractic practice together underneath this umbrella of muscle testing, as well as bringing some nutrition knowledge in. And so when you look at the original work, there is this grounding in acupuncture and auricular acupuncture. So it makes sense to me that you are
absolutely. I mean, what I find extraordinary is that, you know, Chinese medicine is such, I mean, phenomenal wealth of knowledge well before, I mean, you know, science is only beginning to explain what what they knew in Chinese medicine thousands of years ago. I mean, there's talk about, you know, this crystalline, you know, my menopause brain doesn't allow me to remember exactly how it all works, but, you know, it's extraordinary. They have been able to put, you know, colored dyes into the body at specific points to show up the meridians. And the meridians actually show up under CT scans or MRI scans, whichever scans they are. But because there's this crystalline structure within the body, that creates a cohesive, ordered water where these molecules of water are connected into an ordered pathway. And the chemical, you know, the electricity, if you like, I mean, the connection of water and electricity and messaging that goes through that, you know, shows the meridians in, because although they're not physical structures that you can cut open and dissect and see, they are actually visible through these kind of, you know, networks. And if you look at the fascial planes of the body, that shows you, it makes more sense about why an acupuncture point or acupressure point between your thumb and forefinger is good for headaches and toothache, for example. If you look at the connection of the fascial planes of the body, you think, okay, well, that makes sense because they all interconnect.
It's so, when I started learning about the endocrine system, and our glands actually are chakra. So I understood chakras before I understood the endocrine. And when I learned the endocrine, I went, oh my God, absolutely, these energy centers in the body that are known for the energetic work. Absolutely, I can explain it from a biological glandular hormone perspective. Yeah.
I mean, everything can be explained, you know, very scientific. There's a huge body of evidence, both for acupuncture and auricular acupuncture. You know, you just need to go into PubMed and type in auricular acupuncture for whatever it is that you're interested in, and you'll just see a whole load of information coming back.
What's fascinating about the meridians from a clinical perspective is when someone comes in and they are presenting a problem. And so, for example, if they've got like a skin condition on the end of that finger, or they've got, you know, a fungal nail infection on that finger, I mean, this is the finger for the large intestine. It's that the meridian for the large intestine runs up here and through here. And so I go, okay, the body's telling me something going on with my large intestine. So that can be really fascinating. Like I know, like my condition was psoriasis, and I had psoriasis on all of the alarm points. I don't know if you work with alarm points. I literally was a map of them. Literally this massive over energy, and my body was showing me. It was very easy to learn my alarm points.
Yeah. Fantastic.
My body was showing me. So.
Fantastic. You know, I don't know, on our, just when you have a moment, just download the ear chart from our website. And the reason we have it up there is because auricular acupuncture is also a little bit like reflexology or iridology, where it has a map of the whole body in the ear. It's like an upside down fetus. So actually your earlobe is the head. So all the head points are in the lobe.
Yeah.
The eyes, the cheeks, the forehead, the occiput, etc. And then on the inside bit of cartilage, if you like, is the spinal process. So again, you can actually be quite specific around, you know, because when you're going for treatment, right? You, as a patient, you want to get results instantly. You want fast results. You want to know that this is going to work for you. And the beauty of the auricular acupuncture is that you can be so specific, particularly around things like pain issues. Somebody will come with a pain wherever it happens to be, and we want that pain gone. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. We want it gone while you're here with us. And if you have a look at the map of the ear, it just gives you an absolutely beautiful illustration of, you know, what we can work with and, yeah, and how it works. It's a thing of beauty.
What's your opinion, or your professional opinion on earrings?
Piercing.
Yeah, everybody asks it.
I tell you, that is our number one question. If I were to have a piercing in such and such a place, is it going to, you know, give me ill health, or, you know, whatever it is? I mean, there are lots of people who have different thoughts on it. People who are very attuned to energy work would say absolutely. You know, if you pierce, like for example, having, let's say, I mean, the tragus is quite a common one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having the tragus pierced, having your lobe pierced. They have what is the diaph piercing that goes through the cartilage at the top of the ear there. Yeah, there are lots of things. So, I mean, it's interesting because from my perspective at the moment, I feel that it gives, of course, it stimulates, it gives a stimulation. But then it's a little bit like a river that has a boulder in it. Energy will find its way around. But what I would also say, though, is if, for example, there's a piercing around the digestive area, and somebody's digestion was absolutely perfect before their piercing, and then they were having all sorts of, you know, digestive issues, then I would experiment and say, take out your piercing for a while and see if it has any effect, because some people are incredibly sensitive. You know, even people who wear gold or silver, or different, you know, various different kinds of metals can actually have an effect on the body. So it depends on the condition and constitution of the individual as to whether it's going to affect them, you know, deeply by having a piercing in a specific place.
So that's fascinating. So your college offers training for practitioners who want to study acupuncture. How long is your training?
Well, actually, we make a distinction between acupuncture and auricular acupuncture, actually, because although auricular acupuncture comes from body acupuncture, it is now very distinct and separate to body acupuncture. So although as a body acupuncturist, it's really interesting because when I was at uni doing my degree in Chinese medicine, we had maybe half a day, if that, on auricular acupuncture, and it was almost seen. So of course, because I was taught taught that the ear was, like an adjunct to the body. That's how I treated it. But then when I became involved with the college about, gosh, it must be about 18 years ago now, I mean, I was quite sort of horrified that people were learning this treatment. I mean, it probably takes, the training takes, the actual hands-on training is 2 weeks, but it takes students 6 months to complete their work because there are case studies, they put everything that they've learned into practice, and that consolidates the knowledge that they learn on those hands-on days. I've lost my thread. What was I talking about?
You were saying that acupuncture and auricular acupuncture are very different beasts, and
Yes,
mortified that people were just, half a day or whatever it was to learn this.
No, absolutely, because there is so much depth. And the original, if you like, Dr. Nogier, who was a French physician, he was the one that mapped the brain on the ear and showed how efficacious auricular acupuncture is, particularly for pain conditions at that time. But it's garnered so much interest over the years, and doctors practice it all over the world. So you can imagine there's lots and lots of research going on about how auricular can help in all kinds of different conditions. So it is distinct and separate from body acupuncture. We teach the traditional Chinese roots of auricular acupuncture, but there is sort of a French model and a German auricular medicine as well that use all kinds of, gadgets as well as, lasers and electro acupuncture machines, etc. But, again, it's about that stripping back to simplicity. You don't need a, £5,000 gadget in order to be able to treat the ear when you have, your needles. So we do make a distinction that when you come to learn auricular acupuncture, that it is a microsystem. It is auricular acupuncture, which is distinct and separate from the body of acupuncture, which is the body acupuncture, Chinese medicine.
I can see that it would be something, like, from my perspective as a kinesiologist, could be something that would be so great to add into my therapy, because the way that I work is that I will be using muscle testing to be able to find the imbalances of the body. And then when I come to balance the body using my energetic techniques, my structural techniques, my massage techniques, I could quickly put a couple of needles into the ear whilst I'm doing the rest of the work. So I can see how it could be an addition to, it's something that you can make as a whole career. You can be an auricular acupuncturist. Is that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it is a beautiful form of therapy in and of its own right. However, as you say, if there are kind of, not your conditions where you really need to get into the nitty gritty of something, we've had so many, as I say, we've had so many kinesiologists because of the beautiful synergy between the two. And because of the basis of your teachings, rooted in the Chinese 5 elements. Also, a lot of the muscle testing will be, along the meridians, which are also, part of Chinese medicine. Yes, a beautiful marriage, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Where is your college based? Where would students need to come?
Well, we're mainly centered in London, but we do travel we do travel a bit around the country, but it depends. If we have a group, a minimum of 6 people, then we're willing to travel. Part of the work that we do is we go into mental health organizations, drug and alcohol organizations, and the prison service to teach the staff there how to administer the 5-point protocol, which people might know as the NADA protocol. So that's a very limited practice because that's free at the point of delivery. But what healthcare practitioners would be doing is the diploma, which is learning the needling and the electroacupuncture, and that they can set up and virtually treat all sorts of different conditions very rapidly.
And you said that it's best known for addiction, and what was the other one? It was addiction and...
Yeah, what they say in this country, it's best known for smoking cessation, weight loss, addiction. However, we cover so many different areas. Pain, huge. millions of pounds have been spent in America researching what they call battlefield acupuncture. Now, the US military wouldn't pay millions of dollars in research if it wasn't something that worked. And so
Wow.
that's one of the protocols that are within the toolkit that people will be learning. Gynae health, stress, anxiety, digestive disorders, liver detox, liver wellness.
You're talking my language with the hormones and it's actually how we work with pain is by using the meridian understanding. So where there is pain in the body, there's often an over energy, a stuck energy, and there's something that is under energized. So what we do is we bring up the under energy and we bring down we sedate the over energy to be able to balance out the pain. So yeah, I think energy work for pain is second to none.
Absolutely. And of course, with pain, there's always inflammation. So, that's, first point of call, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, as you say, with kinesiology testing, you can be very specific. Also, with the auricular, there's a way that we, intuit what the active points are, if you like. So it's, learning the individual body's language as to what the body is asking for, which I suppose in kinesiology is the same. It's like, what is the body asking for if we can't vocalize it ourselves? We can check in a different way.
Oh, it's fascinating. I love it. I love it. I love the way that you describe things as well. It's quite poetic, the way that you understand energy and how you understand how the body works. So if someone wants to come and find out more information, your website is...
Oh, absolutely. So so to go to the College of Auricular Acupuncture, definitely to download the ear because it's fascinating, and you can look in your partner's ears, you can look in your kids' ears, see if there's anything that you notice about the pathology on the ear. And then I guess, if all the questions are not answered from the website, give us a call. We're happy to talk, to talk to individuals about how they can integrate it into their practice. And there's also, of course, now that we're old dinosaurs, we're being dragged into the technological age with Facebook and Instagram and what have you. We're slowly getting the hang of it, but we do have Facebook, we do have Instagram. So we've
maybe
just got
TikTok next year.
You never know. But we are starting to actually, because of the questions that we get asked, that actually gives us, we're kind of like, oh, somebody asked about this yesterday. Maybe we should do a little post about, what piercings, can they affect by whatever it happens to be.
Yeah,
so,
we're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Siwan, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful listening to you and understanding more about energetic therapy and acupuncture and auricular acupuncture and the difference. And yes, thank you so much. It's been brilliant.
Yes, thank you very much indeed for inviting me. And I really look forward to working together more closely. And it was, really great. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.